Ruth Montgomery, Artistic Director, Calypso Project Lead. I'm a professional musician from the UK and founder and artistic director of a charity called Audio Visibility, which focuses on bringing music to deaf people. I was born deaf. My family are all hearing. My mom and dad are musicians, and I'm the only deaf one. Growing up was a real struggle, and it was frustrating. Mainstream school was hard. At the age of 11, I went to a school for the deaf, and that was where I took up music. I really enjoyed playing the flute. My father and mother were musicians, so I learned music at home and at school. I decided I wanted to become a flautist, and in time I earned a degree in music. I thought about what I wanted to do and decided I wanted to continue in the field of music, so I taught hearing students, and they did well. I thought to myself, I want to work with the deaf. I want to teach music to the deaf. And then I thought to myself, I want to work with deaf musicians because they are role models that I can look up to and be inspired by. My deaf music students would see them and know to aim for the top. That is why I teach music. I've really enjoyed teaching music to the deaf in England. Throughout my career, I've been fortunate enough to work with some really inspiring people and organizations. Two of them have been hugely influential to me and pivotal in bringing this project to life. Ken Carter, founder of Decibels, and Special Kids International, both partners to this project. These charities specialize in enabling and encouraging children with disabilities and special needs to access creativity through technology, and Peter Booz, long-term friend of Ken Carter, resident of Barbados, and honorary president of Special Kids International. Through their networks, I know that deaf people in Barbados are really struggling, and many have tried before to get them support, but nothing has really changed. I thought to myself, why don't I use music to create change and open people's eyes in Barbados? So along with another deaf musician and our interpreters, we flew to Barbados in 2018. We met members of the deaf community. Musicians visited the school. We met so many people. We formed partnerships with the Barbados Council for the Disabled, and Rosanna Tudor, the operations manager, helped me prepare an application. We were successful and received support from the Maria Holder Memorial Trust. This project is so important because deaf people in Barbados are tired of the same old. They want change. They want to live happy, fulfilled lives, and they want things in Barbados to change for the better. They want a brighter future for deaf children. A lot of professional deaf people have come together to lend their support for this project. We have deaf teachers, deaf musicians, deaf photographers, deaf filmmakers, and interpreters all working together with the deaf community here. They'll create 3 new songs, 3 music videos featuring deaf artists and members of the deaf community, a photography exhibition, workshops, and a deaf music concert. It is hoped that this project will bring the deaf community here together and help them become more unified and empowered to create a better future for themselves here in Barbados. Honorable Edmund Hinkson, MP, Home Affairs. I was the chairman of the National Advisory Committee to guide the establishment of a commission to improve the lives of persons with disabilities. I am a lifelong advocate for improving and advancing the lives and rights of people with disabilities, a cause with which I have been associated for over 30 years. You've met and interviewed my sister Celia, who was born deaf. I've always said from the time that I was a teenager that I would commit my knowledge, skills, time, and experience to promote and fight for persons with disabilities. I fortunately have been given the opportunity at policy level in government to do some meaningful work in advancing people with disabilities in terms of their fundamental rights and needs. I am overjoyed to be here to witness this entertainment by deaf persons tonight. The concert was fantastic. When I first heard about it, I said to myself that this is a must-attend event. I am also happy to see that 2 government ministers attended as well. The National Advisory Committee met with all the ministries earlier this year in its quest to craft a policy and legislative framework on disabilities for the first time in Barbados. We met with virtually all ministers of government, including with Minister Senator Chantel Monroe-Knight and Corey Lane, MP, both of whom are here this evening. The latter of whom has been very heavily involved with our committee's work. I think we as a government and a people can do a lot more to develop the cultural talents of people with disabilities in this country. We must maximize the artistic and creative potential of those who have that ability. Significant effort and determination have to be made to carve out opportunities for people with disabilities to participate at all levels in society, to include them in wholesome cultural activities, and to grant them reasonable access to these events, as is their constitutional right as citizens of this nation and as human beings. A 1,000-mile journey starts with the first mile. Equity and equality for persons with disabilities are not going to be achieved overnight. One of the main problems in Barbados, as with a lot of other states, especially developing ones, is a lack of sensitivity and awareness by too many individuals of issues which affect people with disabilities, resulting in a negative and discriminatory attitude towards them. In many instances, some people don't empathize with the cause of disabilities because they have not experienced any ostensible disability or they haven't come into direct contact with people with disabilities. Their minds have therefore never even addressed the reality of the adversities and challenges which people with disabilities face on a daily basis. This project will heighten the awareness among Barbadians as to the nature of disabilities and the necessity to be sensitive to the cause. Ken Carter, project partner, founder, and executive director, Decibels International. I feel honored to be writing this short foreword for the Barbados Calypso project report. Ever since I became a parent of a profoundly deaf daughter as well as lecturer, teacher of the deaf, I have always wanted to create as many opportunities for deaf children, young people and adults as I could to ensure that they were included and that their lives were challenging and stimulating. My life so far in the areas of deafness and special needs has been highly entrepreneurial, and that I have helped to set up 10 charitable companies, including Decibels and Special Kids International. One of my many attributes has been to network extensively throughout the world with individuals associated with music, the creative arts, information and computer technology, politics, companies, foundations, and academics. 4 people stand out, namely Dr. Vinton Cerf, the architect, inventor of the internet, and Google's chief internet evangelist, who is now DeafAX's honorary president. Lord Michael Berkeley of Knighton, CBE, whom I taught at the oratory school, and is the honorary president of Decibels. Ruth Montgomery, who is profoundly deaf but has managed through sheer determination and hard work to become an outstanding musician and creative arts entrepreneur. And Peter Booz, whom I had the privilege of teaching and coaching at the oratory school some 62 years ago. Peter was born in Trinidad but has lived and worked in Barbados for a large part of his life by becoming the managing director of Ernst & Young for the West Indies. He is a philanthropist and family man and has set up the Peter Booz Family Foundation, which has and is supporting youth development, entrepreneurship, education, addiction treatment, environmental protection, and arts and cultural development for deaf people. I am proud and honored to have him as the honorary president of Special Kids International. His heart and soul have been very much behind the success of the Barbados Calypso project. Whilst Calypso is an arts project, it will make a wider impact on Barbados' socioeconomic situation through the empowerment of deaf people to make a greater contribution in all walks of life. One key message, of course, is also that nothing comes for free. And the message to deaf people themselves is that it takes hard work and effort, as well as empowerment and support to achieve your dreams. The output will be long-term and sustainable through the empowerment of deaf Barbadians to find their voice through the arts, and to raise the expectations of families, schools, and policymakers to more effectively support future generations of young deaf people. Dr. Penny Moore, Calypso project researcher, report author. In 2012, I uprooted from the UK and moved to Barbados, building a life on the rock, and working as a lecturer in psychology in the School of Education at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill. During this time, I quickly learned that Barbados is a complex and truly amazing place. Not only is it stunningly beautiful, rich with tropical flora, wildlife, and world-renowned beaches, it is also gifted with what seems like an abundance of highly creative people, a melting pot of musicians, artists, and innovators. But little did I know of the deaf community here. Little did I know of this linguistic subgroup with its own distinct creative culture. 10 years later, all that changed when I was asked to undertake work as researcher on the Calypso project, a music and arts project led by deaf musicians and creatives. I thought I knew something about deaf people, having a profoundly deaf sister who lost her hearing due to meningitis. I thought I understood about deafness, but I was wrong. I didn't understand the many barriers that deaf people in Barbados face, most of them due to lack of understanding and misconceptions of hearing people. I didn't understand how exaggerated and inaccurate some of those misconceptions could be, and I was shocked by how a country that prides itself so much on quality education could be so far behind in the education of its deaf children. Having a background in experimental psychology and having spent a lot of my time in academia, I now work as a therapist. I use these skills, research and therapeutic, to really gain an in-depth picture and sense of the people or issues I seek to understand. I listen more than I speak, and try my best to adopt an approach of seeking to learn rather than teach. This report presents the lived experiences of deaf people through their eyes. In so doing, this report acts as a resource, educating, raising awareness, challenging common myths and misconceptions, and most importantly, celebrating a distinct cultural and linguistic community, a cultural community that is very much rooted in and part of Barbados. Finally, this report acts as both part of the legacy of the Barbados Calypso project, but also as a stepping stone to continue the work of improving the lives of deaf adults and children. About the author. Dr. Penny Moore holds a DPhil in experimental social psychology and MSc in research methods from the University of Oxford, Christchurch College. Dr. Moore has undertaken research projects on a wide range of topics from bird nest co-parenting to tension and conflict in the boardroom to the UK civil service and life story sharing of senior leaders and CEOs. Formerly, Penny served as lecturer in psychology in the School of Education, University of the West Indies, Cave Hill,